Hello, and welcome back to Translator's Troubles for students of Greek and Latin. Today, I want to talk about the status of women in Roman society. In particular, I want to dispel some commonly held myths about how bad women had it, using a resource that I just found, a casebook of Roman family law by Fryer and McGinn. I was quite surprised by what I found. Specifically, I want to look at whether or not women could inherit property, whether or not women could be killed by their husbands, whether or not women could be killed by their fathers, whether women could enter most professions, and whether or not women could receive child support from their divorced husbands. Alright, on to our first claim, or rather, our first myth. It goes like this. Women didn't inherit, or only inherited when there were no males to inherit. This is flatly false. Of course, as today, a man could leave his inheritance to whoever he wanted. However, if a Roman man died intestate, that is, if he died without a will, his assets would have been automatically divided between his children without bias. This means that women automatically received an equal share with men. Quite liberal for the patriarchal nightmare that was Rome. See pages 323 and 324 of the casebook for details. This is a slight oversimplification, since depending on the kind of marriage the woman had, she would inherit from her husband or from her father. Nonetheless, what does concern us is that women could, did, and would inherit property and would often do so on equal footing with male heirs. This was not a society where women lacked all property rights or anything close to it. Our next claim, and this is a touchy one, is that a husband could kill his wife if he so pleased. This is false, or at best, unverifiably true. Here, we have to differentiate between two kinds of marriage. Cum manu, in which the wife passed into her husband's control, and sine manu, wherein the wife remained attached to her father's family. According to the casebook, we know very little about cum manu marriage, since it went away relatively early in Rome's history. However, we do know the following. Quote, a wife in manus was protected by certain social conventions, which were transformed into legal norms at a very early time. It was apparently illegal for a husband to sell his wife, to give her an adoption, or to execute her even for serious misconduct without first consulting a concilium of relatives. Compare cases 52 and 95 through 96. And this is on page 114 of the casebook. So we can see clearly that even in cum manu marriage, which was the type of marriage which was most restricting to women, the husband did not have the arbitrary power of life and death over his wife. In sine manu marriage, the husband, of course, could not kill his wife, since she remained a part of the household of her father. To do so would have been to trespass on her father's prerogative. Here, no one is debating the fact that women could be punished by their male relatives, but the evidence does not support the assertion this power was arbitrary, at least for the periods of time for which we have good documentation. Our third claim is much like the second claim about the right of men to kill women. In this case, the claim is that the father held the right of life and death over his daughters. This is true, but with substantial restrictions. The first thing to mention here is that if this right ever actually existed, it was extended over both daughters and sons. In other words, the brutality of Rome is, in this case, completely gender neutral. However, page 193 of the casebook has this to say. Actual instances of a paterfamilias using the right in order to kill a juvenile or adult child are rare and mainly associated with early Rome, prior to the emergence of a contemporary historical record in the late 3rd century BC. It is therefore difficult to be sure about the historicity of these incidents, though Roman authors do appear to believe that there was a time when the father's power was virtually unrestricted by law. All of this is to say, we are unsure of the actual historicity of this power. If the power existed at all, it extended over both daughters and sons, and so from the perspective of gender power, this is more or less a wash. This supposed power is also interesting to consider in the light of Augustus's Lex Julia, which allowed for a father to kill an adulterous daughter, but only if he also killed his daughter's lover, else he would be charged with homicide. This raises the obvious question. If it was always legal for a father to kill his daughter, why would he need extra permission under the Lex Julia? In particular, it would be quite strange if, although the father could kill the daughter under any other circumstances, if she happened to commit a heinous crime, that of adultery, she couldn't be killed unless her lover would also be killed. So, unless the law is just being kind of pleonastic, we're left with two choices. Either adulterous daughters received greater legal protection than chaste daughters did, or fathers did not have the right to kill their daughters without cause, and so Augustus's Lex Julia established that right for a specific cause. It's also worth noting that under the Lex Julia, the husband did not have the right to kill his adulterous wife, though he did have the right to kill her lover. Our fourth claim or myth is that women were restricted from joining most professions. Again, according at least to the casebook, and I admit I found this quite surprising myself, on page 462, women were able to join most professions. There were a few exceptions, banking among the most notable. And finally, the last thing for today, and I found this to be very surprising, our last myth, there was no child support in Rome. Again, this is false. According to a decree of Marcus Aurelius, listed on page 109 of the casebook, women could in fact sue their divorced husbands if, for some reason, the children remained with the mother after divorce. So you could actually sue for child support in Rome. Of course, any picture we get of women's position in society is going to be incomplete if we only look at these legal sources. To get a better picture, we need to look at all the evidence that remains, from Martial's satire to tomb inscriptions. On the whole, by ancient standards, it seems that Roman women were treated rather well. In general, in all of history, I suppose, men have loved women, and the evidence we have both from Roman law and from every other source doesn't support the image of an oppressive patriarchal nightmare that Rome's detractors want her to have been. Thank you very much. This has been Translator's Troubles. I do the JSTORing and Googling so that you don't have to. I hope you come back. If you like this, click like, click subscribe, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.